Like, if you remember, the beginning of this streak was the Washington game. They got the ball to the one. They handed it off to an offensive lineman or defensive, whoever it was. He fumbled. Then they got it back down there. They actually gave it to a running back. This week, they got to the 1-yard line. They handed it off again. But the no touchdowns, no picks in general speaks to what I was talking about before he had this last week's game, which is he was being too cautious. He wasn't trusting what he was seeing. He wasn't throwing with anticipation. It was as if he was coached, just don't make any mistakes. Yeah. And because of that, he didn't make any mistakes throwing. He took bad sacks, but you didn't get any wow plays. But I've seen what I need to see from Caleb. I want him to continue improving. I want him to continue but as far as me to have confidence that he is going to be able to be the player that I believed he was going to be out of USC, his best 3-game stretch is in line with any of these rookies that everybody else loves so much. And we can show it to you. Nick's actually has the best numbers of any of them if you just take their best 3 games for any of the guys. But his best 3 games compare favorably to Jaden or Drake Mays, and I think we all agree those first 3 guys have more raw natural ability than Bo Nix. And the reason I bring up the age thing, and this is in Drake's favor, Drake's 22. Caleb turned 23 this week. Jaden turns 24 next month. And Bo turns 25 in February. So, he is, to me, going to be the closest to finished product. So I'm not worried about Caleb. I think he's handled himself well. I think he does the press conferences well. His teammates like him. I'm not worried about him.
I don't think the age, when you keep bringing that up about Bo Nix, I think that's irrelevant. Because, look at Geno Smith and other guys that have, gotten better much later in their careers than 25. So he's got a little more college experience, but that doesn't translate to the pros necessarily. So I just think in the pros, is some different things that make you effective than in college. What I want to see from Caleb, though, I want to see him getting rid of the ball quickly, which he did against Green Bay, and being on schedule. And I want to see improved accuracy.
That's right.
And I say that because we got this graphic. He is 3rd worst in the league in bad throw percent. Almost 25% of his throws, 1 out of every 4, is a bad throw. The guys he's ahead of, Anthony Richardson and Bryce Young. Then you see the on target. It's 3rd worst. Guys he's ahead of Anthony Richardson and Jameis Winston. So I want to see his accuracy. He ran really well last week, and that helped him he was aggressive. He looked even much faster than he did when he was playing cautious, to your point. But it's fine if he does it. That's what I'm looking for. Because if he runs a lot and that's a big part of his effectiveness, I can say, well, we got that with Justin Fields. I want to see the passing stuff improve. So that's what I'm looking for.
Okay. Let's talk about this, because there's a few things to unpack about Caleb. And I feel like I've already talked about this, but it just seems like we still kind of keep lumping all of this. There's not something that you so strongly need to see from Caleb. Yeah, you want to see him get more comfortable, more than anything. You do want to see him be more accurate. That's a given. But you want to see, if anything, I want to see less mistakes more than anything. Because to think that he's going to now continue to show progress or really big strides in growth, considering the circumstances with now a fired OC, a new OC, all of this disruption, to expect him to now to continue to grow and get better and better and better at the same rate that another rookie quarterback who has the same offensive head coach throughout the entire season, or the same offensive coordinator throughout the whole season, someone that he's already developed a legit relationship, you're expecting too much from someone like Caleb. And to be clear, I think he can still continue to grow and evolve and get better. But I think now people are now the expectations are too high for what he can show from this point forward. I think maybe the expectations were too high going into the season, especially if you're Nick Wright, who said that they're going to go to the Super Bowl. But now it seems like people have to understand what the appropriate expectations are for how much growth you're going to be able to show for the rest of this season, considering the circumstances and how this season has unfolded. And that's why I keep saying, patience is key here. I'm only expecting so much from him right now. Truly. So, and again, in terms of Nick trying to be like, oh, well, they didn't want him taking risks in this or that, like, dude, I just don't know how true that is, honestly. And when he was kind of, letting it rip earlier on in the season, it was not pretty. It was ugly. And they were struggling to win games. And that's part of the problem when you put the expectations of getting to a Super Bowl. Because then the whole feeling is like, hey, unless this quarterback gets better, we have no chance at a Super Bowl. And if we could just get some good quarterback play, we can get to the Super Bowl. And then it's like, all right, well, if this guy's kind of holding us back, how do we minimize his impact on the game? So things get messy in that regard. You have someone like a Sean Payton who just kind of kept, he kind of went back and forth. He kind of pulsed it, where he sometimes was like, hey, there's some training wheels on Bo Nix. And other times he's like, nope, have at it, let's go. I don't care if you throw 5 interceptions, let's do it. And it was kind of this push and pull type thing, which is what you do with children, right? You give them a little bit more and more with each day they get older and more mature. Sometimes you realize, I gave it a little too far. Maybe you shouldn't have stayed home alone that night. Maybe you shouldn't have watched that movie. It was a little bit too scary for you. We're going to pull back now. We're going to, keep it to more general, easy, casual stuff. So it's always a push-pull, 2 steps forward, 1 step backwards. But it feels to me right now, because of how this season unfolded for Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears as a whole, it's like people are just expecting now 2 steps forward, 2 steps forward, 2 steps forward, 2 steps forward. And I don't personally think that that's entirely fair. I think it's fair to want to see some progress and some growth, right? Because he's not a 12-year-old. He is a grown man, relatively speaking. But I just think that this situation is such a mess. And if everybody has reached, if a lot of people have reached a conclusion that coaching is such an issue, if someone like Nick Wright and Brew or whoever has reached a conclusion that coaching was a fundamental problem, then having this season would have to be a punt. You would have to just be like, what are we supposed to do with this? How are we supposed to make sense of this? It just becomes too messy of a picture, honestly. It really does. It becomes just too messy of a picture to really draw such concrete conclusions. And if we can't draw conclusions throughout this season, then we can't make predictions or expectations for what we want to see for the rest of this season. You understand what I'm saying? Like, it's just you can't get there. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. We're going to put all of our faith now in their new OC to be able to develop Caleb Williams, a guy that was on essentially no one's radar. And again, there was progress. I think there was already progress from, playing in the Packers game, but it was just one game. And this will be a tough game against the Vikings. And that's the thing too, right? What do you need to see from Caleb versus the Vikings? The Vikings have been an awesome defense. They've been a great team. They've made veteran quarterbacks look lost and confused. And now we're going to have a rookie quarterback in his second game with his new OC, who's already been struggling this season. You're expecting to see like big jumps. The truth is, you should expect nothing. So what do you need to see from Caleb? At this point, almost kind of nothing. But if you see some awesome stuff, then it should be almost like an asymmetrical, like it should be like he should get even more praise than he should than he would get negative if he did something bad. Like, it should be actually imbalanced because of what he's being asked to overcome and what he's asked to have to do. Like, if he plays really well against the Minnesota Vikings and looks really great and plays just a good game, a good solid game that you really can't be like, what was this, what was that, he should deserve like an insane amount of praise. And they should be like, that is impressive. That's more impressive than him putting up numbers against the Jags or the Panthers or whoever. And I really stand by that. I really, really mean that. So that's why it's like enough of these conversations of what do we need to see from Caleb? What do you want to this, that? Like, it's unhelpful at this point. And I get why, because it's like, well, hey, Chicago Bears, Caleb Williams, popular. We got to make content. We can no longer talk about, can Caleb win the Rookie of the Year? Can the Chicago Bears make a Super Bowl run? Like, that's no longer on the table. So now it's like, what do we need to see from Caleb? We need to see him be more accurate. Okay. We need to see him score, throw some touchdowns. It's like, okay. Right? We need to see him not turn the ball over. It's like, okay. Like, so football? So we want to see him be an NFL quarterback? I do agree with Brew to a degree about him using his legs. I think he can use his legs to be special, but you can't say use your legs like Justin Fields. Like, when you are a mobile quarterback, especially when you're young in your career, you're going to rely on your legs. But that's just the reality of the situation, because it's just, your legs are going to be more transferable from college to the NFL. If you're fast, you're fast no matter where you are, right? And it's just no one needs to really develop their legs, and you either have the instincts and the agility and the reflexes to avoid a tackle and whatnot, or not. Like, of course, you can work on that to a degree, but for the most part, it's either there. That's why they have things like the combine and stuff like that to show that baseline of what can you do physically more than anything. Very rarely do you really take these massive jumps in those abilities. Of course, it's possible, but it's just less likely. You can get a pretty big jump in your ability to read defenses and your ability to go through your progressions, things of that nature. So, yeah, I think unfortunately this whole season has just been a mess for Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears, and so I've personally reached the point where I'm not just going to be, at least right now, and that could change actually. This could change within the next couple of games, but I'm just not at the point where I'm going to be having such strong defined takes of like what needs to happen from Caleb or what does not need to happen. What do we need to see from the Bears versus not? I had that earlier on in the season. I had that going into this season. But new circumstances call for new expectations. New expectations call for new predictions and what you're hoping to see. So it just, everything has changed. And I know that's a tough pill to swallow for some Chicago Bears fans or Chicago Bears haters, because they're like, oh, you're moving the goalpost. And it's like, no, it's new information. The season has unfolded very, very poorly, especially from a coaching perspective. And so it's just like, what are we supposed to do with this? Seriously, it's like, what are you supposed to do with this? Just not a lot, honestly. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears? Like, what type of expectations should really honestly be put on Caleb right now at this point? What do you need to see from him if you kind of come from that camp? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.